Previously, at the age of 13, Jamie was handcuffed and arrested inside his own home, accused of murder. His shocked parents struggled to understand what was happening, while the boy denied any involvement. But the evidence piled up, and then, a shocking video, Jamie stabbing the victim repeatedly. Could he be a monster disguised as an innocent child? The episode begins on the 3rd. A memorial for Kate has been held in front of her school. There are Inspector Luke Bascombe and Misha Frank. They are waiting for one of the teachers in charge of the school to welcome them to talk to the students at Jamie's school. She arrives and lets them in. One of Jamie's friends is outside the school and goes to another friend. It was Ryan and Tommy. They talk about the fact that the police are at the school. Ryan says he doesn't like it at all and asks if Tommy has heard from Jamie because he hasn't been able to talk to him, and Tommy says no. After all, Jamie certainly couldn't keep his cell phone. Ryan asks Tommy if he thinks it was Jamie, and he says yes. Ryan also asks if the police came to his house, if they asked about the knife and what he said, and Tommy says that they did and asked about the knife, but his father told him not to say anything. The inspector's son, Adam, studies at the same school. He is in the cafeteria when he is approached by a bully trying to take money from the boy, but is saved by one of the teachers. The principal passes by talking to one of the teachers, saying that 14 parents asked about the school's security. They talk about what happened and about the impact this story could have on the school, and the principal asks the teacher to keep an eye on everything. Meanwhile, Professor Fenimore sends Luke and Misha to talk to a student. Her name is Jade. They enter the room and start talking. Jade is not very comfortable with the conversation and seems to be there by force. Luke tells the girl that a suspect has been arrested, but she already knew it was Jamie. Jade was Kate's best friend. Luke needs more information and asks what Jade can tell him about her friend, but the girl responds by talking about Adam, but she completely changes the subject and is extremely hostile to the police. She is angry because the police have evidence and a culprit, and yet, according to her, they are not doing their job. The inspector releases Jade, and Mrs. Fenimore takes them to Jamie's class. Upon arriving in the classroom, Luke talks about the crime and that they made an arrest, but they still haven't found the murder weapon. One of Jamie's classmates seems to find the situation funny, but the inspector seriously asks them to let him know if they have anything to say. As they leave the classroom, Luke talks to Misha, saying that they need to find the knife because without it, Jamie would have bargaining power over them. Besides, they still haven't discovered the motive for the crime. Even with the images, he needs more. He also comments on the anger Jade was feeling and how it gave the impression that Kate hated Jamie. Ms. Fenimore returns and continues to accompany them. As she directs them to another part of the school, she mentions that she once taught Kate and that she remembers how intelligent the girl was. Misha comments that the crime was a shock to everyone. As they go up the stairs, Luke asks Misha to keep an eye on the students' reactions when they get to the next classroom. It doesn't take long for them to reach Adam's, Luke's son's, classroom. One of the students makes fun of Adam. The teacher calls him out and apologizes to the detective, and as he starts to speak, the fire alarm goes off and all the students are immediately removed from their classrooms. Everyone is directed outside the school, where Luke sees Jamie's class teacher and tries to talk to him. Luke asks about what Jamie was like and if he showed any signs of unhappiness, but the teacher doesn't answer, dodges him, and leaves. Luke passes Jade outside, who, upon seeing Jamie's friend Ryan, goes after him, punching and kicking the boy and calling him a murderer. As a crowd of students gather around the fight, she hits and yells at Ryan until someone separates them. Ryan is taken to the infirmary, but Luke and Misha saw everything and asked to speak to Ryan, and Professor Fenimore takes them to the boy. The school is quite chaotic and the situation is affecting everyone. They arrive at the infirmary and there is Ryan. They sit next to the boy and talk. Luke starts to question Ryan, but the boy says that Tommy told him that they were at his friend's house and his father advised him not to say anything, but that it's okay for him to talk. Luke talks to Ryan about popularity. The boy seems to be very concerned about the subject. Luke asks Ryan questions. He asks if Jamie was sad on the night of the crime and what they talked about. Ryan replies that Jamie seemed normal that night and that they just went for a walk. Luke also asks if Jamie talked about his feelings and Ryan quickly replies that he didn't. Luke asks to talk about Kate, but Ryan cuts him off, saying that he didn't know anything about the girl. Luke insists and asks to talk about Jamie, but Ryan says that he didn't know anything about what his friend was going to do. The inspector insists a little more, asking if Jamie and Kate were friends, but Ryan assures them that they weren't. Ryan suddenly gets up and leaves the room, even though he hasn't been released yet. He leaves without paying any more attention to what the inspector is saying. Meanwhile, in one of the rooms, Professor Bailey is with Jade. A teacher tells them that her mother was informed of the incident. The The teacher talks to Jade about what happened to her friend and that she should have stayed home. Jade can't stay home and says that she would be at her friend's house at this time. Bailey advises her to go to her friend's house and talk to her friend's parents, but Jade interrupts her and asks if she's going to get in trouble for the fight. The teacher responds by saying that she doesn't know and that it will depend on what Ryan decides. After all, she attacked him and he can file a complaint. The teacher asks why Jade did that and she responds that she doesn't know. Bailey says that she understands Jade but doesn't know if Ryan has anything to do with all of this. Jade vents and says that her best friend is gone and now she has no one left. Bailey support her, but when she says that she's going to find someone for her to talk to, Jade jumps out of her chair saying that she won't go to another therapist and runs out of the room. Adam is in the hallways. He looks for his father and finds him in one of the classrooms. He asks to speak to his father in private and the teacher takes them to a room. Adam says that Luke doesn't understand what's going on. He shows Kate's posts and comments on Instagram. He explains that there is a language that few people understand, usually only teenagers and young people understand, and that Kate bullied Jamie on social media using codes with emojis. She insinuated that Jamie was not interesting and that he would die single and a virgin, and many people liked the post. Adam opened his father's eyes to a new reality that had been hidden from him until then. With that, Luke understood the reason for the crime. He shares the information with Misha and Professor Fenimore. Misha and Luke talk outside the school, and she confesses that this whole story irritates her, the fact that the protagonist of the story is always the murderer and not the murdered girl. Everyone will eventually know who Jamie Miller was, but not everyone will remember Kate Leonard. Luke disagrees and says that their duty is to solve the case and understand why. He returns to the school to talk to Ryan again. The inspector thinks that Ryan is hiding something. When he arrives at Ryan's classroom and says that he wants to talk to the boy, Ryan jumps out the window and runs away through the school. Luke chases the boy through the streets and manages to catch up with him. He puts Ryan against the wall and asks if he knows anything about Kate's bullying of Jamie, and he says he doesn't know anything, but he changes the subject. Luke presses the boy and asks if he helped Jamie. Ryan confesses that the knife Jamie used was his, but that he doesn't know where it is now. The inspector arrests Ryan on suspicion of complicity in a murder and the police take Ryan away. Before leaving, Luke stops to talk to his son. He invites him to eat and spend some time together and Adam accepts. Nearby, as everyone leaves the school, Eddie pays tribute to Kate at her memorial. If you were as caught up in this story as we were, then you know what to do. Leave a like, because that really helps the channel to continue bringing content like this, intense, full of twists and turns that keep you hooked from beginning to end. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe now and activate the bell so you don't miss any episodes of this series or the upcoming videos. Comment below what you thought of this episode. What would you do in Luke's place? And is Jamie really the only one to blame? See you in the next video. See you then.